To Amber and Jai, I know you're not moving to Queensland?
Ziggy told you.
You should have told me.
Matt, just keep your voice down. The baby's sleeping.
Oh. Listen, last night I wasn't in a good place.
Mac, it's okay.
No, it's not okay, Dean. I'm a big girl. Okay, you do not have to worry about me. Also, I spoke to Gabe about how I was struggling.
Good.
Actually, yeah, it was. He made me realise that I don't need to be perfect. I just need to show up. I'm going to be all right, Dean. And if I'm not, you're only a phone call away. So you need to pack your things and go and be with your son.
Are you sure?
100%.
Craig. Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to get some boxes.
We are Si and Sophie. This is Coastal News, a home and away podcast, your weekly episode companion podcast for your favourite Aussie soap.
Happy Coronation Day, Sophie.
Oh, yes. Happy Coronation Day. What have you got me? Oh, dear.
I don't know. Have you got your quiche ready? Your coronation quiche?
I've read about this online, but what is it? What's it got in it? I didn't actually read the recipe.
Is it? I don't know. Quiche things.
Quiche
Spinach.
stuff. Spinach is nice. Yeah, that'll do. Do you know what? I've got to admit something stupid. You know, we're having the bank holiday, the Monday off for the coronation. Stupid me. I thought the coronation was on Monday. I didn't even realise it was today, like Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then someone was like, no, it's on the Saturday. And I was like, why have we got the Monday off then? I thought we had the Monday off to sit at home and watch the coronation. Do you remember when William and Kate got married? They got married on a weekday, didn't they? And we had that day off work and everyone watched it that day. So that's what I thought we were doing this time round. But I'm an idiot, apparently. So
yeah, we're just in a day.
I'll be like, I'll be there on Monday going, what channel is it on?
What do you mean? I've missed it.
What do you mean this morning's on?
You're there on iPlayer. Yeah. Trying to find it. Well, I must admit, I only knew recently it was Saturday because somebody invited me, like a friend invited me round, you know, on Sunday for drinks and garden things. Yeah. And I was like, is it the coronation? Because can't go outside when it's the coronation day. Like that's like pajama day. I know that's Saturday. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine then. We'll see you Sunday.
Oh, dear. So you thought it was, the Sunday. I thought it was the Monday. We were both wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I was like, who gets coronated on a Saturday, honestly?
I know. I honestly thought that the whole reason we had the Monday off was so that we can sit and watch the TV all day. I'm really confused. But there we go.
Well, yeah, that is still true. Yeah, that is still true. How are you, other than coronation confusion?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Have you survived?
Have I survived?
Survived the week. You're here.
Oh, I know. It's a short week, and then obviously all the work got bunched into 4 days. So this week has been a bit mad. But I think I'm jealous of your week. Your week sounds much nicer.
I've been here, there, and everywhere. Holiday days and things. Yes, I've had a good week.
It's leave.
Rapidly to it. Yeah. So I won't rub it in anymore because I'm back with you. Back at work on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's been very busy because since our last podcast episode, you and I did a jaunt, didn't we? You may have seen online. Yeah, London town. You may have seen online. So it was Dean and Ziggy are on tour. Sophie Dillman and Patrick O'Connor. They're on tour, aren't they? They're doing dates in UK and Ireland, Belgium even, I think I saw.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to get tickets to go to an audience with, in London. And we had a great day, didn't we?
We did. We had a really good day. I enjoyed myself. Did you?
Yeah, I did actually.
Yeah.
Really, really, really long, really long day. Um, but didn't. I know. I was just laughing all day. Just had the best time. Did you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, long day, but that was because we don't live near London. But the actual event probably was, I don't know, about 2.5 hours. Would you say?
It absolutely flew by.
It did, or maybe it was 3 hours in the end. I can't remember.
I mean, the wine in the can would help.
Wine in the can made it feel quite quick. Yeah.
The two non-lager drinkers in a brewery.
Yeah. Whoops.
So thank you to BW Events, for hosting that event and giving us the opportunity, because we weren't the only. We were chatting to loads of other fans there, weren't we?
Yeah.
On the night, everybody was just having such a good time, and
Yeah.
everyone was so appreciative that the event was happening, and Sophie and Paddy had give up their time to come and meet us.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good, and we thought we'd take a moment to sort of chat really and review it, but talk about the day, kinds of things that happened, at the event itself, what they spoke about, and just in case, because these tickets are very limited and lots of their dates are sold out, so many people out there have missed. There's been comments, hasn't there, since when we've been posting online and things, I didn't know about it, or I missed this, can you do all the dates? So we thought we'd go through sort of what went on the day, what kind of things Sophie and Patrick got up to, and what kind of things they told us, and just so you can get an insight into what the event was like if you missed out, didn't we?
Yeah.
I want to start off. I don't know about you, just my sort of impression of them as a couple, as people, as not Ziggy Dean, because you go to these things, especially big fans like us, we talk about this show like it's real, like these people are real, like these things happen, don't we really? We spend a lot of time of our lives talking about a story, it's, and emotionally reacting in all ways to what is essentially somebody's story, in a very real way. For me, anyway, I feel like, especially doing this podcast, the boundary between, I know it's a soap and I know it's not real, but I definitely invested so much into the story of everybody who lives in this low town in Australia that it could be real to me. Like, the line is definitely blurred. So my first impression of them as a couple, they were just so fun. Like, they were really funny. The audience was belly laughing. They were so down to earth, so open, and were just game for it, weren't they? What did you think?
Yeah, absolutely. There was no, like, sometimes when you meet a celeb, you can tell they're a bit like, oh, I'm a celeb and you're not. They're not like that at all. They are so down to earth, like you say, so genuine, so comfortable with each other, which makes everyone else feel relaxed.
Yeah.
Sophie's hilarious. Sophie's really funny. The way, she's so animated, the way she's telling the stories and everything, she's brilliant. So it was just really nice. It was like having a chat with friends, because we know, I mean, they don't know us, but we know their characters. We've watched them for years, and it was just like sitting around listening to a couple of friends talking. It was just so nice.
Yeah, and I think even if you were not like a mad Ziggy and Dean shipper or mad on them as characters, it was an absolutely glorious evening for a home and away fan in general, I think.
There was lots of stuff about the show in general, wasn't there? They little, snippets of information that we got from them, which wasn't necessarily about Ziggy and Dean, but about home and away in general, which was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Some behind the scenes stuff. Some of we've uploaded a couple of clips of them explaining some of the behind the scenes stuff to our YouTube channel. So go and find that if you want to see.
Instagram.
Yeah, forget about that these days. Yeah, and Instagram as well. Go and find that. Many of you have, but it's really, really good sort of couple of clips about some of that behind the scenes stuff. You mentioned about Sophie being so hilarious there. The first thing that had us all laughing was she was like, honestly, they were talking about the reach of the show, weren't they? The first part of the audience with the show, really, the evening, was a sort of presented. There was a presenter, wasn't there? And there was like a question and answer thing with a presenter. Then there was an interval, and then we had a Q&A where the audience were asking questions. And good journalists, we asked a question. We'll come on to in a moment. And getting the scoop for you all. And then at the end, there was a meet and greet. We got to speak to them one-on-one, didn't we? Have autographs and pictures taken and things like that. So it's sort of split into three parts. And right at the top, they were talking about the popularity of the show. The presenter asked them, you know, are you conscious working on Home and Away of its reach and its effects in countries like the UK, Ireland, Belgium, etc., Norway? And Sophie was like, I am shocked that there's anybody here.
They really thought it was going to be an empty room, didn't they? Bless them. But I think they sold out of tickets, didn't they? I think there's about 90 people. I think the organizer said that there was about 90 people in the room, which is a lot, because it wasn't a huge venue, was it? Like you say, it was a brewery company, wasn't it, in London? South London. So it wasn't a huge venue, but it really was packed out with people, wasn't it?
It was an intimate venue, but didn't feel small because it was so busy, you know. But she was so funny. I'm just shocked anybody's here. And look, and I think that shock might wear off as she goes around more cities, because it sounds like I've had a quick look before we come on today to record this, and a lot of the dates are sold out. So I think they've underestimated their popularity, probably. They're being humble, more than likely.
I think it's probably explained by something they did tell us, because I can't remember who asked them now, but we found out that Paddy and Sophie, neither of them had watched Home and Away before being on the show. So I think, you know, if you'd watched the soap growing up, maybe it would have been a bit bigger deal, and you'd understand the impact of your character on the audience, because you're now in that show and you were the audience. But maybe because they've never watched it before they were on the show, they've never really thought about who's sitting at home watching it, getting invested in the characters. So
that's true. That's so.
And
also,
there was a gasp in the room when they said that. Everyone went, "Oh, you've never seen it!" There was a huge gasp, wasn't there, when they said they didn't watch it before joining?
Watch a couple though, wouldn't you, before your audition? Do you know what I mean?
I guess they did, but they weren't avid watchers of the show. Yeah.
It was funny when, you know, they were talking about that and like their auditions and things, you know.
Yeah.
Sophie explained that she rocked up, you know, the only one there. There was loads of Sophies, the potential Ziggy, should I say, and she's the only one in the band T-shirt and the ripped jeans.
Yeah. She said everyone else was dressed a bit more conservative, didn't she? And she was like, "Oh, I didn't get the memo." It obviously worked for her, you know, not looking like everyone else, looking a bit alternative.
Well, she was a baddie at the beginning. She was.
Yeah. She'd run away because she'd stolen a car in the first episode that we saw her in.
Yeah, that was it. Jumping through that window, you know.
Yeah.
And she talks about this, and the presenter asked them about, you know, what was day one like on set? You know, talk us through that day. You're on this iconic show that they had really no idea what the reach was, as they say. And to be fair, she said the days are so long, you know, you don't really think about who's watching it. You just sort of do your lines, you know, go home, learn lines for the next day, and you're back in again the next day. You know, you can understand that, you know.
Yeah.
And Patrick actually sort of expanded on it by saying, however, just to let you all know, nobody who works at Home and Away back in Sydney takes it for granted how much the funding and the money comes from the UK, which I thought was interesting, because that's not something that anybody would dream of asking. He brought that up, you know, like that. And there's been loads of talk over the years about this, you know, the Neighbours cancellation debacle, and then conversation was there was loads of talk about money and funding and things because that was on the same channel as Home and Away over here in the UK, blah blah blah. So I just thought that was really interesting of him to even mention it. You know, like
Yeah.
everyone's aware that
we're bankrolling it. We're bankrolling the show, and they're very grateful, aren't they? They're very grateful for the UK audience, you know, loving the show so much, and it's obvious. And it was nice.
Did he say we just wouldn't be here? Nice, didn't?
I mean, we know this is a big show in Australia. We know that as well. So we're not saying there's audiences elsewhere that are not making a big impact. But it was nice to hear that, you know, everyone on set is aware that the UK is mad for this show. And it's, you know, their gratefulness for that was quite obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I'm really appreciative. So they talk about joining the show. They've never watched it before, as you say, and the presenters asking them about that first day on set. Dean talks quite candidly, I thought, about his anxiety. Yeah, you'll have to just keep that. You'll have to just.
I keep doing it as well. I keep calling him Dean. Like, it's not his name. Oh dear.
He talks quite candidly about day one on set, his anxiety about being a river boy. And now, do you remember the fan backlash do you remember that when he was announced as a character and the pictures were up and everyone was like, "What the hell? He's nothing like Brax." Like,
I don't know whether I was aware of that at the time.
He's not true river boy. Yeah, there was a massive online thing. He's not a real river boy. The river boys are Brax, Heath, and Casey. And Kyle, depending on what your persuasion is. Yeah, they would. So the fact that he spoke about the anxiety of trying to continue that Riverboy legacy was fascinating, I thought.
Yeah, I don't think I was aware of that because I don't think back then I was on any forums or Facebook groups, or it was just me watching the show, you know, on my own. So I don't think I spoke to anybody about it. So I didn't know that, but that was quite interesting because it is, when I had to think about it then, I was thinking, gosh, it is quite a big legacy to join, because the River Boys is something, I mean, you were watching a show that's been made recently, weren't you? That's mentioned the River Boys. They have got this legacy, haven't they? So
Colin from Accounts, you need to watch that. It's so funny.
I will. I'll get on it. There's a River Boy joke in there, isn't there? So they are iconic, aren't they? Whatever you think of them. Modern day Homers, you think of River Boys.
You do indeed. And we had a bit of a debate with a couple of our listeners on Twitter in the week, the River Boys, didn't we? Talk about the end of that era, Dean's leaving the show, and that's the last River Boy, and all the rest of it. And it always sparks a bit of a polarized debate, the River Boys. Oh, yeah. I think that they are always brought up because they epitomise the new Home and Away versus the old.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
They epitomise the change to what the show is today to what it was type thing. So they always tend to polarize the audience. The longer audience generally tend to be like, oh, they ruined it. But not all. But, and then newer listeners, viewers tend to, absolutely love that. And they were wildly popular at the time. Oh, my gosh.
See, and when I remember saying to you, because you said to me that they were Marmite, and I was like, really? I love them. I couldn't even imagine anybody not liking them because I love them so much.
I spent 5 years rowing with people online about them.
I had no idea. There's me just going, oh, they're great. They're great. I had no idea that there was so much hate for them.
When will it end?
Oh, dear.
It happened the minute they mentioned it happened again, didn't it? But it's always fascinating because to me that's just friends talking about the show, talking about their opinion, and I just love that stuff. That's why we're here doing this podcast, right?
Yeah.
So his anxiety about carrying that on was just really understandable, and the reaction from the fans was polarized at the time when he started, and it was a bit like he's a Poundland Brax, it's never going to happen. But of course, I think as time went on, Dean,
he outlasted everybody else, didn't he? Outlasted all the other River Boys.
Well, that's true.
The last River Boy standing,
and he became the character really for a long time. the whole Colby thing, he spoke about joining with Colby, and that was his rock,
Yeah,
joining
yeah.
with him, who played Colby.
Because they knew each other, didn't they? Was it from acting school? Did he say that they knew each other? Or they knew each other somehow, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or college or something.
Yeah, that's right. So they were buddies, and they went through the journey together. The journey.
Yeah.
So it really helped. And he spoke really fondly of Tim.
Yeah.
And his time on the show with him, and the first sort of 3-4 years of Dean's sort of time in Summer Bay was spent with Colby and the whole Bella family and Willow. 4 of them were from Mangrove River, and they were murdering stepdads and finding illiterate sisters in the garden, rocking and busting down doors and shooting up cops, and they were going through all that together. So he spoke quite candidly about it, which I liked. And we've heard this mentioned before by Ethan Brown, who plays Tane, on an interview he's done. They spoke about this Alf handshake keeps coming up.
Yes, it was on the Alf This Is Your Life program as well, wasn't it? It came up on there, and I've seen it when I think Channel 7 have a program where they interview Home and Away cast, and I've seen it on Instagram as well where Tane's mentioned it.
Yeah.
But when you meet Alf on set, he will shake your hand the first time you meet, but then no more handshakes after that. That's it. You get one. But they said they did get another one when they left, so they got 2. They were quite chuffed about that one.
Yeah, that means they've made it. They're special.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go in the end. They spoke about people they worked with, and this more, it came sort of up again, when the audience started asking questions after the interval. They spoke about that bitch Simone is apparently really nice, but some people believe it. Yeah. Karen, the actress who played Karen.
They love Karen, don't they? Well, I can't remember her name in real life now. It's gone out my brain. But they said she was a very formidable actress. She was a pleasure to work with.
Yeah. Gushing about her, weren't they? And Dean was saying he didn't consider himself. Patrick was saying he didn't consider himself a particularly great actor in the early days, and for him, not coming from a single parent background, he both learned so much off her, in an acting skill set sense, and also, in the struggles of a single parent family and the whole mental health struggles that Karen went on, and he just said he had a newfound respect for anybody, and I think we're not the only ones who took something from that, in the middle of it,
Do you remember he actually shared that? I'm sure I can't remember her name when I'm kicking myself now, but the lady that plays Karen, I'm sure Paddy told us that in real life her brother's schizophrenic. I think he said that, didn't he? So a lot of what her storyline, she was drawing on her own personal, experience of that, which was fascinating. Yeah.
And she would know how to play it on, and giving him tips on how, because she'd been in his boots.
Yeah.
So she knew how that would feel and react, and she'd have just the best advice on how to bring that story to life on screen and give it the justice it needed. Yeah, you're right. That was really interesting. I've missed that out of my notes. So yeah, well done for remembering.
Just come back to me as we were talking. I was like, oh, Karen. Yeah, that was quite an interesting. That was quite a personal thing to share with us as well. But it was really interesting to hear that.
I mean, when I say they're just dead down to earth, they just would open up for anything, weren't they?
Well, that's what they said. When we got to the Q&A section, and they said to the audience, there's no questions that are off limits. Nobody really asked anything that intrusive. Actually, in the end, I think the worst question they got was, when is Paddy going to propose to Sophie? I think that was probably the most personal question.
Yeah, the room erupted.
Yeah. And he was like, maybe. Watch this space. So I think that was as personal. But they did say, ask us anything. There's no questions that we won't entertain. So they're just so down to earth.
Yeah, they didn't dodge it.
No.
I would, they were just amazing. Amazing to listen. I could have listened to them all night. Especially as it's about my favourite show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
That helps. There was a moment where Sophie welled up a bit, wasn't there? Which
There was a couple of moments where she looked like she was about to cry, wasn't there? Oh, bless her.
And this shows you how much she was just wearing her heart on her sleeve. Just you knew everything, you know, was genuine. You know, it was,
Yeah.
you know, and she was chatting about the first day on set, and the car picks her up. By the way, with your coffee order.
Yes, that sounds nice.
My God,
Drives you into work with your coffee. I know. I don't get that in my job, I'll tell you now.
No, I'm not, but I'm going to put it in. I'm going to put it in for expenses on Monday. I want a car outside with a flat white 8:30 every morning. Yeah. Put it on the Amex. Yeah. I mean, I live 5-minute walk from work. Kill the environment while we're outside. Yeah.
Electro car. Get an electric car. You'll be fine.
Oh, everyone's got one of them these days, haven't they? Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
She talks about that first moment where you see Palm Beach in the car.
Yeah.
Up and it's 4 a.m. and the sun's rising over the ocean, and she got all emotional about it, didn't she?
She did. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to see that for real, wouldn't you?
To me, though, that tells me how profound that place is.
Yeah.
To have that effect on somebody, and she had that response in that moment because
with memory of it. Yeah.
And she misses it.
Well, they've moved to London now, haven't they?
We're in a brewery. Yeah.
Those lovely coastal views are a long time gone. Yeah.
So just gorgeous people.
Yeah.
What was Dean? Can you remember what Patrick said Dean's name should have been? Can you remember? I've got it written down.
Oh, I remember him saying it, but it's gone out my head. What was it? So
Dean was never going to be called Dean initially.
Yeah.
It was going to be called Roy.
Oh, that was it. I couldn't remember, but I knew it was going to make me laugh. It doesn't suit him, does it, Roy? No, not a terrible name. It just it isn't Dean. It's not Dean's name. No.
Of him in his anorak.
Oh, Roy Cropper.
Yeah.
Little with his model train set.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad they didn't go with that.
Badass, that was it. Yeah.
You can't have a river boy called Roy, can you? Come on.
No. Not one that's alive anyway. I made it. Made it out of Mangrove River.
Made it past 5 years old. Oh dear.
And they spoke a lot then, sort of they tailed off the sort of interview segment. They spoke a lot about their exit from the show, which we've seen on air in the UK this last week. Well-timed audience, I would say. Leaving the same week as this event in London. And they spoke about how emotional it was. He said Sophie would have stayed forever. She wanted to do Marilyn.
I know, she kept mentioning Emily that plays Marilyn, didn't she? I just want to be her. I was like, yeah, join the club. Who doesn't want to be Emily Simons? She's absolutely stunning, isn't she?
Yeah, absolutely.
So lovely.
And you know what? I think I could picture Ziggy being that kind of character that's there for you, brings up a family. And do you think that's why the door might have been left open for them?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, like you say, the door was open, so there's no, there's no real bar for them to not come back, is there? There's no excuse for them to not come back in the future. We don't get many that do, but Marilyn certainly is a character that left and came back, so we know it happens.
Yeah, she's been and gone a few times over the years. I mean, not so much nowadays. She's stayed in it forever now, but
I hope so. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be against Ziggy coming one day with baby in tow, baby Izzy.
Well, it wouldn't be a baby; it'll be a fully grown human. Yeah.
It'd be like Sally all over again with little.
Yes. Yeah. Little Pip that's not so little anymore. Yeah.
Just a quick segue. How's little Pip not sort of become an angsty teen yet and run away to come to the bay to find out where her mum grew up? Someone write that. you know.
Turns up on Mr. Stewart's doorstep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mum spoke about this a lot, you know.
Yeah.
To learn. Yeah, we need that. We need that. Come on.
Write it in the book.
The old fans like ourselves will love it. I nearly called us oldies. The old fans would love it.
Charming.
Long termers.
Yeah, lifers.
That's it. Homer's lifers. Lifers. Anyway, yeah. This is the Paddy and Sophie's moment, Simon.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, Richard. Then we had this, like you say, Q&A, and we had a chance to ask questions ourselves. Somebody had checked when Paddy was going to propose, as you've mentioned, and he did that, didn't he? Swerve that question.
Well, he didn't say he wasn't going to. He just kind of said, well, you know, watch this space, didn't he? So that to me meant I'm
waiting for Paris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody asked why he's always eating pizza. Why do they only ever eat pizza in Salt?
Ziggy is the pizza queen, according to Mac.
The pizza queen, yeah.
I mean, Mac might make a profit now that they've left. Because she's always giving them free pizza and free beer. So maybe that's why she's in debt.
Absolutely.
You never know.
And actually, Paddy says he did address this with the. He said, I went upstairs and said, you know, he'd like to eat pizza every third scene. You know, he wouldn't like this. What did he say? They said basically sent him away.
Yeah, they didn't take it seriously, did they? They just went, "Oh, that's just how it is." Yeah.
So
they did laugh, didn't they? Because they were like, all the you know, fit people on Home and Away live off pizza, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And in fact, they're all just inhaling kale fumes.
Oh dear.
Chewing it and spitting it back out. Yeah. And then we asked a question.
We did?
Because
you did.
Well, being a responsible newspaper for the Northern District area, we couldn't not, you know. And we said, if you were in the writer's room and you had free reign to write your exit, what exit would you have given your characters? Because we know on screen they've just driven off to Brisbane to be with Jai, don't we? So, like, as an actor and you were in charge, you'd want something a little bit more involved, I would say. And they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
All back. Well, so
Dean had a lot of ideas about his exit that he would have, you know, begged for, I think.
Yeah, he said, didn't he say he suggested that he broke Colby out of prison?
Yeah. Yeah, he said he was going to go all rogue, break Colby out of prison, and then there'd be some kind of shootout between him and someone else who wanted them both dead. But he didn't explain the full storyline around the circumstances to which he'd be shot at by some assailant. But he did say it would be pouring with rain. He would be breaking Colby out of jail. They would get into some kind of fracas with this assailant who had a gun. Dean would get shot. He would fall down. Ziggy would be there crying over Dean as he's dying. Dean would be shouting, "I love you, Colby," and Colby would be shouting, "I love you, Dean." He painted quite a picture of what he wanted to happen, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And I'm pretty sure we've had that episode.
Have we?
Along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think we've been far off that at some various points in the show's history.
Yeah.
Sophie's response to the question was along the same vein. I imagined it pouring with rain, Dean's lifeless body on the floor, and I'm crying over it. And then I have to go and I become the new Dean, and I go after the person who's killed.
Oh yeah, she was going to go John Wick on whoever shot him. Yeah.
She was.
That'd be hilarious. Imagine that, Ziggy the assassin. That could have its own spin-off, actually.
Yeah, Foxtel, make it happen. Come on. And they and that would be a big sort of character turning point for Ziggy if that happened. You know,
definitely.
I think basically what she was saying was, Patrick wants to leave the show, so we're going to kill you, and I'm going to stay on.
Yeah.
You know, try and what's the word? Get revenge for Dean.
avenge his death. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Which,
it.
like you said, would be a pretty good 360 for her character, considering, Dean helped Colby bury the body when Colby killed his dad, and she dumped him for that. No, not Colby's dad, Bella's dad. She dumped him for just helping conceal the crime, didn't she? So to go from that to a vengeful murderer, that would be quite a character change, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm here for that. I'm definitely here for that.
That's what we call going on the arc.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I think we need to see Ziggy again in the future. In the future, she wants to live life, Sophie, and travel. And like you say, they're now living over here in London. And they seem to be just loving life, don't they?
One of the things they said about how it's so good to live in London was the fact that they could go anywhere within a drop of a hat. So they said the best thing about London was that they could get to Italy or Portugal. So the best thing about London is they can escape London and go somewhere else. I was trying not to laugh too hard about that. I was like, oh my God. I don't think they meant it like that. It just, when the way she said it just made me laugh. Like, oh, I love living in London because I can get to Italy or Portugal or France or wherever.
Take for granted. 2 hours we can be in all in places. 2 hours.
And 2 hours in Australia, and you're still in Australia, aren't you? Traveling.
Well, didn't Patrick or one of us said, a 5-hour flight, you can not even be out of the state yet.
Yeah. It's
2 days.
huge, isn't it?
Did you hear that on the episode?
In the car, 21 hours to drive. That's mad. I mean, 21 hours. If you start at the bottom of England and drive 21 hours, you'd be in the North Sea.
She's got the map out.
I'm trying to learn geography after I got embarrassed on the pod for not knowing where Perth was. Oh dear.
Honestly, I was grinning from ear to ear the whole day. You and I had an absolute blast, didn't we?
Definitely, yeah.
And we would do
it was the little snippets. It was like, that story that she told us about how they make the magic happen. Some scenes you can tell it's not a sunny day in Summer Bay because they're looking a bit colder. They've got the coat on. Yeah, it's the coffee cart scenes where everyone's looking a little bit shivery, but they're trying to pretend it's like, midsummer. And she told us that story, didn't she, where it was when Ziggy was wearing like very short shorts and like a tank top, and she wore that as like kind of her uniform, didn't she, for years. It was like denim shorts or leather shorts and a tank top. And said she was doing a scene in the caravan park, and the caravan park had flooded, which apparently is a regular occurrence, that the caravan park gets flooded and the caravans basically wash away. Which might explain. I mean, it kind of it was a light bulb moment for me. I was like, this is probably why we're not in the caravan park that often, because maybe a lot of the year they can't film there because of this flooding issue that they've got. But said it was a freezing cold day, caravan park, and when they were breathing, you could see like their breath, because the air was cold, so you could see their breath coming out of their mouth. So she's wearing next to nothing, she's freezing cold, and then they said, right, to get rid of this breath on the camera, because we're trying to make it look summery and sunny, suck on this ice cube to make your mouth cold, and then when you talk you won't have that cold breath, and then we can shoot the scene. So she's absolutely freezing cold, sucking an ice cube and spitting it out, and then doing a line, and then another one, and it just sounded horrendous. The things they have to do, honestly.
She said we were literally blue.
Yeah.
Makeup ladies must have been piling it on.
Yeah.
On an ice
as a foundation.
Temperature was -1. So that's on an ice cube, so you can't see the breath on camera. The price they pay for make it always summer in Summer Bay.
Absolutely. That was quite interesting. Those little behind the scenes things that they mentioned were so interesting, weren't they? Like the caravan park flooding, that was like, what, to me? You just don't imagine that, do you?
No. And that's why we say it was a great night for any home and away fan. Not just a Dean and Ziggy fan. Patrick and Sophie fan. Absolutely glorious evening, wasn't it? And then we got a chance to meet them.
We did, and they were so nice. They were so lovely, and I'd had a couple of wines by then.
From a can.
From a can.
That detail matters.
In a brewery, I know. Bless us asking for wine in a brewery. Everyone else was on the beer. We're like, we don't drink beer. But they were so lovely, weren't they? They were really nice. We got a couple of minutes to talk to them. I was talking to Sophie, you were talking to Paddy. We had our photos taken with them. we've got signed photographs that they had. They were selling photographs of Dean and Ziggy together, lovely photograph, and they signed a couple of photographs for us. So it was just really nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. So if you were thinking of going to one of these events and we're an hour in, get yourself one. You will not regret it, you know.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the good things was talking to other people. So we were sat on a table with other Homers fans, obviously.
Yeah.
Bev and Claire, and Claire's husband, whose name's gone out of my head, actually. Can you remember his name?
No.
Oh, I had it a second ago and it's gone. I can't remember. We were talking to them, weren't we? Bev had driven 6 hours from Cornwall to get to London for this event. And we were thinking we'd had a long day, you know, but she'd driven 6 hours to get there. I think Claire and her husband had come from the Midlands, near where I live. So yeah, it was just nice to talk to them, and
everyone made the effort to get to it. Yeah, from all angles of the country. There was people from Scotland, and that's another joy. You know, you mingle with other fans.
Yes.
Like chit chat about home and away all night. I mean,
yeah.
What other way to name a better way to spend a Saturday night? Come on.
Scrabble with Palmer. That's about the only thing, that would be equal to it, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely, get yourself to one. Sophie hinted to us when we had a little one-on-one meet and greet, they might add some more UK dates as well. I think they're trying to work out some things out.
I think the events organisers have said that on the Instagram page, actually, because they've been replying to people's comments saying, oh, I didn't know they were here, because they did Bristol the night before, I think it was. They did Bristol the night before us, and then they did London. And a few people have seen the photographs online and sort of commented, oh, I didn't know they were here, you're going to do another event. And I think View Events have said, later on the year, we'll keep an eye on the dates. So there might be some more. There are some island dates coming up, I think, but I think they're all sold out, aren't they?
Most of them are. I mean, I know Dublin is this weekend, and
Dublin is Saturday, isn't it? Yeah.
Ireland's a bit of a stretch. Keep an eye out. Maybe we'll, if there is news about more UK dates, maybe we'll post it as well. So people don't miss it. Definitely get yourself to one. Now, if getting to one is just not an option for you, maybe we have something for you.
Yeah.
Don't we? So we mentioned that we had a chance to speak and get autographs, and we got an extra one for one of our listeners, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we have, which is really exciting. I just had to pause for a breath. We have a signed picture of Dean and Ziggy to give away, absolutely free, to one of our listeners, because we wanted to give back, didn't we? We wanted to give some of our listeners a chance at owning this, at having it, even if you didn't get there on the night, didn't we?
We saw them sign it as well. We've got pictures of them with it. So it's a genuine article, genuine, signed by Sophie and Paddy. We'd like to give that to somebody that listens to the show, really, don't we? Like to listen to our show. I mean, one of our listeners, share the love, because this little podcast, we kind of do it for fun, but it does mean the world to us when you guys interact with us on Twitter or Instagram, and we have those little conversations with you about this show. That just means the world to us. So to do something for you guys, give a photo away to one of you, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And you've got to work for it a little bit. We're just not just going to give it you. Like, how do we decide who to give it to? We've got to make it fair. So we are going to be running this over the next couple of weeks, the next few episodes, okay, of the podcast. So you've got time to get your entry in, okay? But you need to answer a question. That's all. It's not too much effort, is it? Do you want to read the question, or shall I read the question? Have you got the question?
You go for it.
You go for it. So we need you to answer this question. Now, listen carefully. Or you could rewind the podcast. I mean, it's one time, you can't listen again. We need the answer to this question on an email. Okay. Now, our email address is in the episode description of this episode. It's all over the social medias. It's on our website. There's also a link in this episode description as well. If you struggle to find it, I know you won't, but if you struggle to find it, ask us on social media and we'll help you. Okay.
Are we not given the email address now? Are
Yeah.
we letting them find it? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I can give it you. But it is in the episode below. It's coastalnewspod@gmail.com, isn't it?
Yes.
You need to email the answer to the following question. Dean and Ziggy have recently given birth to a beautiful baby daughter. What's her name? Move aside, Bradley Walsh. So get your answers in. You could be clutching a signed photograph from Sophie Dillman and Patrick O'Connor. It could be yours in a matter of weeks. I will remind you as we go and in the next couple of episodes of the question and how to enter. Terms and conditions and all the rest of it, and all the instructions on how to enter, in case you forget, are going to be on our website. Again, the link will be in the description of this podcast episode. Good luck. Right, let's get on with what we're here to do, recap the EPs and share our thoughts and opinions on it. Do you want your headlines, Sophie?
I do.
Always.
Always. Apart from that 1 week, I'm going to surprise you and say no.
I know, I'm waiting for it.
Not this week.
I will just not give them you.
I'll just log off. Bye. Don't do that to me.
Cash and Eden's love bubble is all but popped as Felicity walks in. Flick heads to the country in search of her demons and Gary. Ziggy and Dean decide to leave Summer Bay for good so that they can be close to Jai. Aww. And Bree discovers that she is pregnant with her abusive dead husband's baby, whom she murdered in the woods a few weeks back, and starts to push Remy away.
Catchy.
Please take the time to like, subscribe, and review Coastal News wherever you source your podcasts and ensure you never miss an episode.
So they said it on Facebook last week. Cash and Eden are in a love bubble. And we see that obviously...
Filthy.
Oh.
Filthy bubble.
Kitchen bubble, bedroom bubble,
bathroom bubble,
bathroom.
shower bubble. Yeah.
It should have come with a warning this week, shouldn't it?
I loved it.
I loved it as well. I've made no apology about wanting this for so long with these. Got a bit fed up of the will they won't be, for a while there. And the fact that a memory came back a fortnight ago. We still weren't there until this big romantic
I'm not convinced the feelings came back. I know the memories were coming back, but I wasn't convinced until the song, which we'll talk about. I wasn't convinced the feelings were there.
Well, obviously she's done this song now, hasn't she, Eden, for the gig. She ran. Well, she wasn't for the gig. She ended up performing it, and that's how she let Cash know that she remembers. And the song was actually Lyric's best song.
We said that last week, didn't we? It's better than anything they've done themselves, which is terrible. But yeah, it was lovely. She got a gorgeous voice. It was a really good song. Yes. And it was like her therapy, wasn't it? All that stuff in her head that she couldn't make sense of. She wrote it all down, and this became the song. And it was like an explanation to him, wasn't it? It was lovely. Just the way I loved that whole thing. The way it was executed.
The way that was done, and it's not how I would have seen it going.
No, me neither.
Quite enjoyable that it was something different.
It was, because when they couldn't carry on because of Remy's hand, and they were like, what should we do, I really thought it was going to be Theo and Kirby, the double act again, because we know that they've apparently done some gigs as a double act, haven't they?
Yes,
to keep the money coming in. So I thought, oh, here we go, we're going to see Theo and Kirby do the double act. But when Eden said, I've got something, I wasn't expecting that at all.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And as you say, she's got a gorgeous voice.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Cash is sort of like, can we talk about it? You know, like you've just sang a song to me saying that you love me and you love me. And she basically describes, I'm glad he didn't press the matter because I thought he was going to. She basically says, you know, it didn't really just come back and I didn't tell you. It's sort of been flashes here and there, a memory, a feeling, you know, it's all been sort of bits of a jigsaw that she's had to piece together. And he's just like, who cares? You're here. Let's get down to it. Let's get
on the kitchen counter, love.
They do take to the bedroom eventually. I know it was a bit sort of, you know, we've waited too long and I'm about to explode moment.
Yeah, I was almost off the boil with these two, but they put it right back on the boil for me.
I am glad. Yeah, because I thought I'd be the only one flying the flag for us.
Yeah. I was getting a bit it's a bit tedious. And I was thinking, oh, come on. And then finally, just before I got bored, they ramped up the heat, which is what I needed.
Good. You're back. You're back over.
I'm back. I'm on board. What are we calling them? Are they? What's their couple name? Cash and Eden. Edash. What are we calling them? What's the online discussion?
I don't know. We'll have to find that. What's the official ship? Is anyone?
Because obviously we've got Tenacity, which is Tane and Felicity, isn't it? But I don't know what we're calling Cash and Eden. Might have to look that one up.
Cadden? I don't know. Yeah, let's look it up. We'll put a pin in that one. Now they're in bed, and Felicity's just let herself in, looking for Eden, looking for a chat because we know.
Hi.
Yeah. Straight in because that's what brothers and sisters do to their bedrooms as adults.
No, it was Eden's bedroom.
Oh, yeah, but either way, do you just walk into it?
No, you knock and you go, are you in there? Are you decent? Not Flick, though.
No. Straight in, sees her brother, and he's not even worried about it. He's counting down. 3.
He's going, she'll be in here in 3 seconds, isn't he?
And I'm thinking, your sister's about to see you in bed with him. But okay.
Oh, so yeah.
That happens. It's horrible. I'm cringing to high heaven.
I was laughing. I thought it was so funny. It's just another reminder of how well Cash knows Flick. You know, because Eden was like, "No, we'll just be quiet," and Cash was like, "No, we can't just be quiet. She'll burst in 3 seconds." Literally counted it down, and the door was open.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. Good point about that relationship between Cash and Flick being so tight. And he gets his pants on and he says, I'm going to go for food to it. You obviously want to have a chat. So off he goes for some food. And Flick starts talking to Eden then, doesn't she? You know, and Eden sort of gives a bit of detail about that, you know, about her rekindling of things with Cash, and they swap stories a bit. But obviously Felicity's gone there for a reason. And she's breaking down before we know it about Tane. You know, I'm horrible. It's horrible. I know I took it all out on him. I feel guilty was the word she's saying. And Eden says to her, you've just got to face up to your demons. Those were her words. You know, you've got to just grab this now and sort this out. And just at that moment, you know, Felicity's in floods of tears. She's letting it all out. She's saying she feels guilty. Finally, she's realizing that she's took a lot out on Tane, hasn't she? Basically, this was the moment where she's admitted it out.
Yeah.
Cash
we needed to hear this, didn't we? Because we've been saying for weeks, you know, she's acting like an absolute madam, you know, blaming him, being absolutely vile to him. The accident's not his fault. It was, you know, it came about because of actions that Cash had done. It has nothing to do with Tane, actually. You know, and she'd screamed him in his face at the barbecue in front of everybody, I don't even want to marry you anyway. You know, and then every time they've met, you know, she kicked him out of Salt last week. That's horrendous. It's really childish and petty. And
threw his engagement ring at him.
Threw it in his face. Literally threw it in his face. Like, yeah. It's about time she took a step back and went, oh, do you know what? I've actually been a bit of a cow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this was the moment where she sort of vocalized it, you know. And I'm glad she feels guilty. I'm so glad she feels guilty. She deserves to feel guilty. Guilt's not a very good feeling. One of the worst, actually.
Awful,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, and she needs to feel a bit of pain because what she has dragged Tani through in these last few weeks, she needs to suffer a bit. And I'm not taking anything away from the post trauma from the accident and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But all she had to do was talk.
Yeah, she was aware that she was being affected. She was aware she's quit drinking now. And she's aware that she was still holding on to these feelings, these flashbacks, and that horrible feeling in the car and everything. And she felt suffocated. She could feel the flames, all of that. She's aware of all of that, but she just, until this week, she had no self-awareness of what she was actually doing to Tane. But now it's like a light bulb, doesn't it? She suddenly realised, which we needed, because I think if it gone any longer, I'd have been like, oh, I'm going to have to fast forward.
Yeah, I should be getting that close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking now, my mind was sort of running away with where do we go from here now? How do we get back to Tani? How do we get Tani on board? So I was already at that point where I'm thinking, how is she even going to do this now? Because Tani's kicked her stuff out. He's not talking to it, and rightly so. Actually, I would defend him for that because he enough patience with her. You know what I mean? And then we go on later on. Obviously, Cash has come home at this point and interrupted this conversation. So Flick gets herself off to work, drying her eyes and gets herself off to work. And Tane's there again at Salt. It's the place, the only place to be. He helps her close up, doesn't he, at the end of a shift? And he's sort of hanging around and he's chatting to her more. And there's a bit more of a dialogue between the two of them. And I'm then trying to work out whether I'm excited by that or whether I'm over it as well. Do you know what I mean? I'm conflicted in how I want this to go at this stage in the story.
Well, they were avoiding it, weren't they? So they were having this conversation and locking up, but they weren't actually talking about the elephant in the room. What's going on?
Well, were they? They were doing it in code, I thought.
They were, yeah, but
weren't they?
But she wasn't saying, I'm really sorry. He wasn't saying, it's okay, let's work through it. That's what I wanted to hear at that point, but I wasn't getting it. Yeah. And I was like, this is not closure. Either breaking up closure or getting together and addressing the problems closure. There was nothing there for me to grab onto. It was like, it was like an almost.
Yeah, they needed to just lay the cards out, didn't they, at that and it didn't happen.
They were talking about Cash and Eden, weren't they? But they were actually talking about themselves. They were saying, isn't it great that, they've got the happy ever after? And I was like, you're talking about each other, but you're not actually talking about each other. Yeah.
I wonder if they'll find their way back to each other. You're thinking,
bloody
do it.
Yeah, just get on with it.
So I couldn't quite work out whether I wanted it at that stage. No. And then, Felicity then goes back to Eden again, and she's doing this whole, rather than taking control like she said she needs to do and face the, I'm air quoting there. So but she says, you need to go and speak to Tani.
Yes.
It just flat out says it, right? You're beating around the bush. Go and do it. So she goes to him and she says, I need to get away. I can't be here. You need me not to be here. And I'm thinking, why? What?
This frustrated me. This really frustrated. How did you feel about this scene where she rocked up?
I literally said, "Hi, you've made the effort to go over there now. So why not sit down? The guy wants to talk to you because she says, I need to go, and she's running again, and she doesn't. She addresses that with Gary in a minute. And I'm just thinking, I can't be here. You don't need me to be here. My question was I was just screaming the word why at the TV. Why?
No, I just didn't understand this scene at all. So she went round there to tell him that she's not staying in the bay, she's going away. And I was like, it reminds me of, when you're in a Facebook group and then someone puts a post in and says, I'm leaving this group because I don't like X, Y, or Z. And it's like, you didn't have to tell us you were leaving. Just leave. Take the classy route and just leave. Don't do a big rant and say, I'm leaving the Facebook group. It felt like that. It felt like, I'm coming around to tell you, attention seek. I'm leaving the bay. It felt really dramatic for no reason. I was like, I wanted to shake her.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It
Totally
was.
at the wall.
And there was this weird. She tries to go, and he pulls her back, and then they do this kiss, and he
Yeah.
whispers to her, "I love you," and I get this the chemistry there, and that, and we're almost a melt at that point because they've kissed again, and there's a chance, but she just flees into the night, doesn't she? Basically,
It was a flounce. I'm going to call it a flounce.
is off, and hitchhikes. I mean, let's talk about the danger.
Oh God, I'm glad you mentioned that because I tweeted something and I was like, hitchhiking. This is making me really uncomfortable. You know that you remember those talks we had in junior school? Stranger danger. You know, don't trust anybody that you don't know. Don't get in someone's car. Hitchhiking's bad. It always leads to being bludgeoned to death and buried in a field. Like all of that was going through my mind, and then I thought maybe it's not. You know, here you just wouldn't do it, would you? But in Australia, is it safer to hitchhike? Is this normal? Because they just showed it as like a matter of fact. You know, she just got in. I think it was 2 cars that she actually got in. I think the first car was like a blue, and then the next car was red or whatever. There were 2 different colour cars. So I was like, she's hitchhiked 2 lifts here. Is this normal? I mean, someone from Australia, please tell me because I'm dying to know.
And you let us know. Nobody here would stop for you these days.
Well, like, if they do, you'd end up in their boot. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't think it'd be legitimate. They would get you door to door. Anybody that stops for a hitchhiker, I would assume they were a mass murderer. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. I'd rather walk on bleeding feet.
I would. I'd rather crawl on my hands and knees over broken glass than get in someone's car that I don't know.
Walking. Sorry. Why do you always make me sing?
I just have that effect on people.
You just like Eden.
I wish.
She finds herself safely hitchhiked. Don't try it at home, kids.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
Felicity,
you will be murdered. This is what I learned at school. You will be murdered.
Yeah. There is no nice farmhouse at the end with Gary there with a cup of tea.
No.
You'll end up 6 feet under. And oh, he has a right good old heart to heart with it, doesn't he?
Oh, I was so happy to see Gary. I was so chuffed. I didn't actually know that we were getting Gary, and I'm so happy to see him.
He pops up just when you need him, doesn't he,
Gary? I know, with all the right stuff, all the right things to say.
I hope
pub dinner. Yes.
You know, like with Dean, the recurring pop-up of Karen. I hope if he can't be permanent, I hope he is that for Felicity, especially now. There's a lot of deal made about her not going home since she was a kid, all the trauma of losing her parents and all that. And she's been back. There was a big deal made up about that, wasn't there? You've been here for 20 years or whatever it was. And they sat on the porch, that scene on the porch, and she says, I always run away. You know, and I'm thinking, maybe not, maybe, and he says, maybe you've just come home. Maybe you're not running now. Maybe you've come home. And I just thought,
if she was running, she'd run somewhere else, wouldn't she? I think that was very, like you say, Cash saying to Eden on the phone as well, or maybe face to face, can't remember. But he was saying this is the first time Flick's been home since everything happened. So she's not running away. Because if she was running away, she'd go up the coast, you know, she'd run off to somewhere where she'd never been before, where none of her memories are, none of her demons are. But she's gone back and she's confronted her past. She's confronted the things that have been holding her back. So I think this is progress. Do you?
Yeah, I do. And I think we know at this point she's taken Eden's advice on board. And she knows why she's got like this. She knows it's because of her parents and her childhood. Like she didn't need to go on a bit of a thing and find out what it is, why she's like she is. She knows.
She knows, She knows
what's wrong. So she's gone straight to sort it out. And obviously, and Gary's, you know, there must be a reason. Well, this is where it started to go wrong for her in her life.
Yeah.
You know, she's had to come back and face it. The fact that she's never been back since, her whole life has been the run, and now she's had to come back and face it. And good on her. You know, we can slag her off all we want about not facing it with Tane, but good on her for. I think this was beyond him and their to be, wasn't it? This was something she had to do on her own.
Yeah.
He takes her to go and see the graves, doesn't he?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that, actually. That came out of the left field, because I was like, oh wow, like to see her. And again, it was that contrast, wasn't it? So really, really sad scene and graves, but beautiful scenery. I was like, I don't know whether to be sad or to be staring at the scenery and thinking, wow, it looks gorgeous, because Gary's house looked gorgeous, Gary's surroundings looked gorgeous. Wherever these graves were, it was like really picturesque, wasn't it? It wasn't like a graveyard. It was just the countryside, wasn't it? It just looked lovely. But then obviously the really somber scene of her crying to her dad and having this speech to her dad. It was really well done, actually.
It was. I mean, I was a blubbering mess this episode.
Yeah.
It was. I'm no cinematographer, but I think it had to be somewhere so beautiful. That sort of fragility, and how amazing and beautiful life. To me, it couldn't just be any old grim graveyard. It had to be somewhere so picturesque that you wouldn't even put it on a postcard. It's too beautiful for a postcard, even. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that sort of was the oxymoron, the juxtaposition of life and death. How everything, as far as the eye could see, was life. Green trees, flowers, bees, butterflies, but she's focused on death. Like she's there because of a death. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know. I think the difference, when I think about like our soaps, the UK soaps, if we'd had that scene here, it would be in a really grey, blocky graveyard, probably raining. It would be a really sad scene, but also visually quite somber.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really depressing. But actually, like you say, it was a scene about overcoming a death, not being completely consumed by it anymore, and saying, okay, this has consumed me for several years. I've not been able to face up to it, but now I'm going to go forwards. I don't want to be in this grave. It's basically what she was saying. I don't want to drink myself to death. I don't want to spiral to the point where I end up like you, because she kind of says to her dad, I forgive you. I understand, you lost your wife and your life fell apart. And I do get that now, because I was so close to throwing mine away. And, I've had a wake-up call, and I don't want to be in your position. I want to make you happy. I want to enjoy my life. I want to be happy.
She promised him, doesn't she? I'll do it.
She did, yeah. You can't do that in a dark, somber background, because it wouldn't work, would it?
No, 100%. For me, I felt like, in not so many words, she was forgiving her dad.
Yes.
For life.
Yeah.
She was.
I get it. She was saying, I get it.
Yeah. Absolutely God. I mean, you couldn't have done it any better. Absolutely gorgeous scene. But still had you in tears. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird feeling, wasn't it?
It was, it was like a bittersweet. I was sad, but I was also like, yes, okay, this is great, because she's realized what the problem is, and she's now going, I'm not going to spiral. I'm going to grab life. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to move on. This is what we needed.
Yeah, we did. Absolutely. And it's what she needed,
Yeah.
Now, afterwards, back at the house, Gary's asking her, right, what's next?
Dinner? Oh, you mean like forever? I love that.
Oh, yeah, me too. Oh, it's so funny. She thinks, she started work on that whole getting past her parents' death. She thinks Tane's too much, doesn't she? It's beyond her. And he's got some words for, if you want it that much, you can make anything happen. And you just give it a try. Roll the dice and see where it lands, I think he says, doesn't he? Reach out to Tane. You never know, he might surprise you, is basically what happened. And given he just kissed you and said he loved you when you last saw him yesterday, chances were quite high, I thought, at this stage.
Yeah.
Gives him the old tinkle on the phone, doesn't she? And true enough, Jim gets closed due to family circumstances, as per the. And he gets in the car and goes up there. So despite everything, he's open to talking. And it shows Tane's maturity, you know, and his understanding that everything she's said and everything she's done to him has been because of whatever this greater thing in her life. You know, I think Tane's always known. How do you read this? I think Tane's always known she was damaged goods.
Yeah, he's known from the beginning. I mean, they didn't have the best start, did they? I mean, he thought that she was stalking him. Let's be honest, when they first got together.
Oh yeah.
You know, he got the roses left on his car and on his doorstep. He was convinced it was her. You know, so I think he's always known that there's this potential for Flick to go off the rails. You know, he saw her working in that nightclub. He's seen her, you know, spiral since. I think he knows what she's like, but I think now he just accepts her, loves her for who she is, which is what she said to Eden before the wedding day, before they almost got married. Because Eden was saying, "What are you going to do for your vows?" And Flick was like, "He loves me for who I am."
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't tried to change me. He loves me despite who I am in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And even this moment where he's arrived at Gary's farm and out of the car and she says, "You came," and he goes, "Of course I did." You know, it's like that's why he's had given her so much allowance, because he knew, you know, and
he knows her. Yeah, he's her lobster.
Yeah. But I think he has that understanding because he comes from that brokenness as well. In his family's life, he's suffered loss. He has as well, so maybe that's why he gets it more than others. And he goes, you know, "What am I doing here? You know, do you live here now? Is this goodbye?" You know, and she's, you know, "I love you means I love you," she says. You know, she wants to work through it, and he's like, "What does that look like after everything that's gone on since the wedding?"
Valid question.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know, and he deserves an answer to it. You know, she says, "I don't have all the answers, but I was hoping we could work it out together." What are we on? So they're starting, the dialogue's open, they're talking, agrees to stay over, you know, so that they can spend some time together. And I think they need to be away from others.
Yes.
The bay, away from distractions, and work on it.
Yeah.
It's obviously an important place for Felicity as well. I think that she's going to spend some time there healing. I'm feeling positive about them again and the future. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's when she was showing him round, you know, she was saying, "Oh, this is where I used to do this, and this is where I used to do this." And he said, "Is this where I used to come to avoid my questions?" I thought that was really good. You know, because she was kind of distracting him by kind of showing him around the farm and saying, "Oh, this is where I used to do this when I was a kid." And he was like, "Where's the bit where you used to go and avoid people and not answer their questions?" You know, he was really upfront about, "Look, you're just stalling me here. So let's get down to it. Let's talk about things." So I like you. I think they need to take that time away. They probably need to change the scenery, which is where they are. They need to communicate now. They need to put their cards on the table. Okay, where are we going now? If we get back together, what does that look like? What do we need to do to fix our relationship? Do we need to go to counselling? Do we, you know, what do we need to do? I think it won't work if they just get in the car, drive back to Summer Bay and just pretend none of this happened, because as viewers we won't accept that, because we're like, hang on a minute, she threw the ring back in your face 2 weeks ago. She told you she didn't want to get married 2 weeks ago. What's happening to the engagement? Is that not happening? Is the wedding off? You know, we need to know that as viewers, so they definitely need to talk this through, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, completely agree with everything you've just said. You're right. If they go back to how it was before and expect it to be different, that's going to be quite frustrating from a viewer's perspective, but also it's not going to work because everything you go through affects you as a person. You know? And this has been such a monumental breakup. Like they were on their way. He was stood at the altar. She wasn't going to go. He knows that's going to be in his mind. He knows she wasn't going to go. She never wanted to go. He's even mentioned it a few times, you know. Like he's probably and then to the point where he snapped and said, "I'm done with her."
Yeah.
Something said on this pod not 2 weeks ago. Can't believe he's even said that after everything he's put up with. Like he's now at that point. He's reached his breaking point. So coming back from that's going to be a hard pill to swallow if it just happens on Monday's episode. Do you know what I mean? So we'll have to see, I suppose, how that pans out. Hopefully, it pans out in the way you're describing.
Yeah.
Now we need to talk about it because it's flavoured of it. But Ziggy and Dean, right? She's insisting that he goes for a surf when we join him this week for what we now know is their final week on air. He needs to clear his head out, work out what he's going to do about seeing Jai. If you remember last week when we left them, Jai was moving up to Queensland with Amber. She's taken a new job and he's flapping that he's never going to see his kids again. So they're in this stage where they're trying to work out what that's going to look like. How is he going to be able to get to Queensland? It's a 2-day drive, yada, yada, yada. And then Tane comes along and offers a coffee with a catch-up. You're thinking, well, okay. Amongst all the stuff he's got going on that we've just been talking about, he's running to Ziggy and he's like, do you fancy
his ex, who left him for Dean, let's be honest.
Controversial ex, shall we say. Massive missed opportunity, but, as some of us wanted that to happen. As you can tell, that was me.
I think it was me as well. And do you know what? If Paddy hadn't been at that meet and greet last week, I would have asked Sophie, Tane, what was that like? But I didn't dare ask her in front of Paddy. So
are you blind, woman? No. But we're talking like this, like it's random. Your ex to ask randomly for a coffee. They don't have many scenes together these days.
No.
The scenes that Tane and Ziggy do have, though, are always really, really valuable. This happened when Tane was going through the whole Felicity not wanting to get married. He lent on Ziggy a bit, and and Ziggy gave him some really great advice. And it's sort of happening again. Ziggy's at this sort of crossroads now, like what happens now? The future's unknown, and Tane pops up and gives her a bit of a sounding board. To sometimes if you just sort of talk it at someone, it makes you realise because you've said it out loud. It clarifies things for you a bit, doesn't it? It does sort of turn a bit to Tane. He just sort of talk about himself for a bit. And the stuff he's got going on with Felicity and all that, because that's all.
How can he not mention that? Really, it would be weird if he didn't.
I know. And Ziggy says, you two were practically married. She crashed into a petrol station on the way to the wedding. State the obvious, Ziggy.
Slightly, disruptive to a wedding day.
Tane's saying things like, maybe we should move on.
Yeah.
We never wanted to get married anyway. Dean, then Dean, we cut then to Dean chatting to Jai on the phone. And Tane sort of giving Ziggy a bit of clarity and giving her an idea, basically. And I always love it when Ziggy and Tane get back together. It's almost like they got one last scene.
Yes.
To basically, they both moved on so much.
Closure, isn't it? It's that closure of, he doesn't hold a grudge against her for going back to Dean while they were dating, essentially, is what that scene was about. He's moved on. He might not be happy in this scene because he's not happy right now because of the whole him and Flick not being together. But he doesn't hold it against Ziggy that she's moved on and she's got this other life now going on with the baby and Dean and Jai. She's happy. And he doesn't, begrudge her that happiness.
Yeah, and there's something quite poignant about Tane's lines, like defend because Diggy's quite angry that Amber's going to up and move sticks to the other side of Australia. And put Dean in this position. She's quite angry about it. How can she was on the phone to her last week, playing L with her.
But she did say, I forgot you had a thing with her, so you would defend her.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite funny. Like, you've been there, mate. I know what you think about her.
It was a little funny line. But I do like that he says to her, Amber's doing just trying to do the right thing by a kid.
Yeah.
Quite poignant that it's Tane's the one that talks her into this life-changing move.
Mm.
And then things just sort of snowball at light years speed after that point. Because then she suggests
really fast. When you said to me on First Look last week or the week before, you were like, their departure is imminent. I was thinking, no, they can't. At that point we didn't even know they were leaving, and then within a week, not only do we know that they're planning to leave, but they've actually left, haven't they? It's mad. I'm finding the timeline of this a bit, and I have had conversation with people on Twitter this week about the timeline of them leaving. And how fast this, the storyline has started and ended in the same week. We've heard that Amber's moving away. We've heard that Jai's moving with her. We've heard that it's 21 hours in the car. They're thinking about Dean having to drive up there. While he's driving up there, he can't take Izzy, so he has to go on his own to see Jai. Jai can't travel down on his own because he's too young. We've heard all of this storyline, but we didn't expect to have to say goodbye to them within the same week.
No,
but we have
to take in, hasn't it? It's been an incredible take in, actually. Because then, as a fan, your mind starts running away. Like, what about the farm? Who's going to live there? What's Matt going to do?
Yes.
What are we going to do? Blah blah blah. And then that gets explained away because one phone call to Ben and Maggie, like, yeah, let Max stay there, no problem. Yeah, fine, no worries. What about
and
work?
The board shop?
Hey, just going to gift that. Not even going to bother for work. We're just going to gift it away. Justin wasn't even told, bless him, until.
I know. Oh, I felt bad for that. And Irene was like, yeah, they're moving to Queensland. Oh, he didn't know. Oh, awkward. Awkward moment.
Take that foot out of mouth, Irene, love.
I know. A lot of people have been talking about this online because obviously Ziggy and Dean, whatever you think of them, this is the end of an era, them leaving. 100%. They've been in the show for almost 6 years, haven't they? It's a long time for us to see them on screen. So whatever way you look at it, end of an era, end of the Riverboy chapter, because with Dean being the last Riverboy, end of the Estoni chapter, because she's the last Estoni on the scene. When they arrived, they were a family. A lot of people have been saying this feels very rushed, this storyline. And I feel the same. I'm sort of feeling that it's been rushed as well, but also kind of grateful that the door's been left open, as we were talking about earlier in the pod, when we talked about the Diggy meet and greet last week. Kind of grateful the door's been left open and it hasn't been just they've been killed off in some awful accident or something like that. They've got this happy ever after. They're moving away to be with family, and hopefully they'll be happy in Queensland. And then there's will they, won't they ever return? But we were at the meet and greet last week where Paddy and Sophie were explaining their exit to us. They actually told the writers they were leaving back in 2020, didn't they?
Yeah, they sometime back. Yeah, it's been on the cards for a long while, hasn't it?
Because they basically said we are renewing our contract right now in 2020 for whatever it was, another 2 years or whatever. But then we're leaving, we're going and traveling, we're going to possibly move away. They got plans, hadn't they, of stuff they wanted to do after they left. So we as the writers, the show, we knew they were leaving a long time ago. There was potential to write a really big exit for them. You know what I mean? It was a potential to write something really convoluted, really complicated, really dramatic, and they didn't go down that route. It did feel quite quick, this exit, didn't it? Apart from the montage, because we don't get them often. The last episode we saw them before they left, we had that beautiful montage which actually made me cry, that showed them getting together. It showed Ziggy arriving when she was a bit of a tearaway. Showed them meeting, showed them getting together, showed them winning the surf comp, all the stuff, the rally, the car rally they'd been through. Loads of those sort of scenes that we saw of them together, where they're sort of developing that relationship and becoming the Diggy that we know today.
Yeah.
But it still felt, even though we had that montage, which was really special, I don't think we get many of those when we didn't get one for Nico Bella or anybody else, did we? Let's be honest.
No, but true.
It still felt to me a little bit rushed, considering we had so much time to plan this exit. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah. No, I get it, because like you've mentioned, we had a phone call on Friday last week to say
Mm.
guys moving, and we were in the car on Wednesday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. No, like
really quick.
yeah. I'm trying to put it into the because I know now that they had time. I'm trying to put
Mm.
myself into the sort of, just take a step back and look at the whole thing a little bit.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, so them having the baby is the sort of end game,
Yeah,
the happy end game. But
yeah,
then so why was there such a big question mark over her wanting it then?
I
Do you know,
know.
I think it
Yes.
felt a lot better if they got pregnant, they wanted it, they were
Mm.
gusty happy about it. They
Yeah.
finally got everything that they wanted. They'd found
Mm.
their way back to each other after the split, you
Yeah.
know, and they're now going to have a baby, and the world's their oyster, and they're moving on to be closer to family. Instead, it was, I don't think I can have a baby. I'm not ready for this. I'm wholly unprepared. I don't
Mm.
I don't have to change an nappy. I don't, I've got 5 different models of breast pump, and I'm panicking and I don't know what to do. And now
Mm.
I'm bond with this baby, and suddenly now, okay, the other one's moving. Let's go.
Yeah, it was the crossroads as well for me. It was like when she found out she was pregnant, it was on the same storyline where she'd literally got crossroads and she was looking down, okay, I either become a mother and I give up, all the things that I enjoy, or I've got this really cool opportunity that I keep saying is a dream about doing pro surfing. Remember that storyline where
Yeah,
she's got a deal to go and be a pro surfer. She got sponsorship to go and do that. She was going to go up and down the coast. Justin agreed to it. Yep, go and do your surf comps, come back and work when you can. So she's going to balance her pro surf life with being a mechanic and being a mentor to Dia and all of that sort of stuff. And she was saying, this is the dream. This is what, I can't imagine life getting better than this. But on the other hand, she was like, oh, but I'm pregnant, which takes away. And she kept saying, my life as I know it is over. That's really, really negative, isn't it? And for
yeah,
her to then turn around within the space of a couple of weeks and say, oh, that dream life I talked about, I don't want that anymore. And I do want this baby that I was saying was a basically a life ruin situation. All my dreams are gone. My life as I
yeah,
know it, it's not gonna be the same. It it didn't sit right with me at the time, I'll be honest.
yeah. Well, you said it a few times on here on the podcast.
Yeah,
We've made no, we've not hidden that fact.
no,
And I think for me that's made it feel even quicker at the end, because
yeah,
the end was so lovely, and
mm,
they're moving on as a family, full circle. Like you say, that gorgeous montage of where they come from and
yeah,
where they're at, and everything in between. I think I would have liked the baby story to have been a lot smoother and happier. No,
yes,
that was the reason that baby storyline existed, was to write them out of the show. Do you know what I mean? It just
yes,
was like an
yeah,
odd decision to do it the way it was done,
yeah.
to write them out. In my opinion, everyone's different.
Mm. If it had been, oh wow, surprise, I'm pregnant and I didn't expect it, but from the beginning, actually, this is something that I'm really excited about. And although it wasn't planned, I'm actually quite happy that this has happened. If we'd had that storyline and we hadn't had the, oh, should I keep it? Should I not keep it? Oh, I don't know what to do. Lots of crying.
Yeah,
There were a lot of crying scenes about how my life is ruined, my life is over. If it had been completely different, I think I would have been on board with it from the moment it started.
and this,
And then obviously when the baby was born, we had that post, what's it called, postpartum depression story, didn't we? For a couple, it was only a couple of episodes actually. It didn't actually drag on very long, but the baby blues. Oh, I don't know, I can't connect with my baby. I don't know what to do. So she wasn't immediately overjoyed with having a baby either. So we've already had to overcome that you know, birth anxiety about whether this is a good idea to have a baby. then the post-birth anxiety of, am I a good mother, or can I actually do this? And then a week later, oh yeah, everything's fine and let's move to Queensland. Like you say, it might be the happy ever after, but it's taken a lot of my imagination to be on board with that, I
to
think.
go with it. Yeah, and it doesn't
Yeah.
right in it feels untimely with what's happening with Mac as well, because Mac's in this awful place with Gabe. Wrongly, whether we agree, comment.
Don't agree. We don't need Gabe. We don't need him. We didn't need a Gabe.
But she's obviously going through something with him.
Yeah.
And suddenly her brother says, well, he avoided it because she's going through so much, he's off to Queensland, and she finds out by Ziggy in the end, who's exasperated and just says it and says, you need to speak to him because he was going to tell you, but because you're so dramatic about Gabe, who we don't need, didn't tell you. So can you go speak to him, please?
Can you just pretend you're fine with it and then we can go? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that was another sort of one scene, and that's resolved.
Yeah.
Mac goes home and says, will you just go? That to me is not Mac. I think it would have been like, we've been apart for years. Like, where are you going? And I've got all this Gabe stuff going on. Where am I going to live? She had none of those questions. Like, comes home and says, I hear you're not going because of me. I'm a big girl. I've decided. I've learned now. I've had a conversation with Gabe. I just need to show up. Don't need to be perfect. You got your son, Tra. Thanks for the house. I'm like,
she got the shitty end of the deal. Not being funny, Marley inherited a completely free business for nothing. Mac has ended up with a house and responsible for the rent of 3 people.
A whole rent, on that bill, that should have to take in away from straight.
She's gonna have to have a border.
Honestly, so that all coupled with everything we've talked about with the run up to the exit, that's it. Just seemed to go at lightning speed, and I think I just ended up just getting myself all whipped up in the emotion of it then, because it did happen so fast within a couple of episodes, and then the montage and the music, and then suddenly we're all waving them off into the sunset in the car. I was just like, a minute. I've watched that episode 3 times now just to try and take it in. It only aired last night.
Who was not waving them off? Because I was looking at the crowd of them saying goodbye. Irene was there, obviously. Mac and Marley.
He ran
Where was John Palmer?
JP.
Where was John? When John finds out that Dean has left town, I wouldn't want to be Dean.
Let's hope that's addressed, because that'll be something else that's overlooked if not.
John is going to be fuming that he didn't get to say goodbye to them.
Where was John? Has anyone seen it?
Where was John?
Yeah. Leah and Theo sent their love. A telepathy.
But they didn't. When I was thinking about all the people that Dean's got close relationships with, I was just thinking there is a John-shaped hole here.
I agree. Yeah.
Because think about all those times at work with John. John's the surf club, manager.
Yeah,
Dean's running the board shop. They have loads of scenes together. Dean goes to him for advice. John goes to him for, ranting, basically, and inappropriate questions, that kind of thing. Bad dad jokes. But they have a really good relationship. Where was John? I was gutted. I didn't, I was like, where is he? I tweeted this.
In Tane, you could argue that Dean was with Ari.
Yes.
He and Tane helped each other out. Had to go and bust some boys, and over the years, they've.
Tane's and Dean have helped each other out with various criminal activities that have been going on in the Bay as well. When they've been embroiled with something, so they've always had each other's back.
We can sort of give Tane the pass, I suppose, because he was probably out at Gary's sorting his life.
He was in the, in the woods. Yeah.
So they're off in the sunset, lackluster wave from about 3 people from the Bay. So, as you say, end of an era, no more in town. No more Estonia. Dean and Ziggy,
Mm.
they're in Queensland. And back at Justin's house, he's thinking Ava's little crush is in the past. And she's offered to cook dinner. Theo's avoiding going, or he's trying to. It's been insisted that he goes. And so, he goes because he doesn't want to get anyone's back up, blah, 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 blah. And basically, he asks Kirby to go with him, and she's like, hell no, I'm straight away from that. I'm staying with that mad bitch. Don't want no drama. So he's got. So they come up with a plan. He's going to use an excuse to get away early from this. And Leah's been sounding it all off with Rue, hasn't she? Because she's not on board since she got back from Cyprus.
No, she knew immediately. She caught her in that room, in Theo's room. When she got back from the airport, and she was like, "Hello, Justin. Hello, anybody here?" And at that point, Ava was in Theo's room, wasn't she? Snooping around, putting his dirty laundry on, taking pictures of herself on his bed, etc. Basically, got busted by Leah. He accidentally kicked his guitar over to, alert Leah to the fact that she's in the house, and Leah bursted in. What are you doing in here? Why are you in Theo's room with the door shut? She knows immediately there's something wrong here.
And obviously, scrapbook gate. She's not bought scrapbook. I'm only a fan.
No.
Stuff. She knows. And at the end of the day, it's her nephew, so she's going to be defensive of him, isn't she? Do you know what I mean? She's going to stick up for him. Especially,
but then Justin's going to be defensive of Ava, isn't he?
That's the thing. So understand, this whole family. And I think, do you know what? What a shame. Controversial or not, listeners, let me know. What a shame to bring Ava back, adult, and it to be some sort of psycho stalkery fan story, and not just a really nice family gel. Like blended family. There's a real opportunity to make them all a big family unit. They could have been really nice.
But do people want to see that though? When you look at the hashtag on Twitter, and people are saying, "Bring the school back, bring teenagers back, bring back." Yeah. Do they want the nice, happy family, or do they keep saying, "Bring fostering back"? We know from watching the show from years back, fostering always has the arc story, doesn't it? It always starts with someone that's come from a very traumatic past. They're acting out, the troubled teenagers, causing issues because of the fact that they're hurting essentially, and then the foster dad or foster mum takes them in, and they become good. That's the foster storyline that people are begging for, isn't it? This isn't a foster storyline because obviously it's Justin's daughter, but I think we're getting that teen drama storyline, that tear away equivalent storyline with Ava. I think this is what people have asked for. It's not what I've been tweeting about, I'll be honest, but is this not what people have been saying? This is what's missing from the show. This is what makes it nostalgic for the long time viewers. I don't know. What do you think?
You raise a good point. Does that take away from the fact that it's a missed opportunity? I don't know. I mean, for me, it feels a bit too close to Heather. Both in likeness and so time. Like that was only January UK pace. And I'm just a bit like, does she need to be a bit unhinged and a bit cray? Like, can she not just be wanting to come and spend more time with her dad, and then Leah takes her in as a motherly figure, and
would that have been boring though if she come back and just been a nice normal teenager and just like, oh yeah, I've done my assignment, Dad. Oh, I'll come to your dinner with salt with you, Dad, no issue. Would that have been boring to watch? Do we want the drama? Is that what people have been asking for? They want the teenage angsty, difficult, all of those, because the people are not asking for teenagers, they're asking for foster storylines, aren't they? Which are not necessarily the happy, clappy family unit storylines that we're expecting to have.
No, that's true. And they can be really dark.
They can be, yeah, because these kids have come from broken homes with really traumatic. When I think about Jet, was living in that house with his dead mother.
That's true. Yeah.
That's really dark. those kind of storylines that people hark back to.
Yeah, actually, now when we compare it to stuff like that, this is pretty tame, to be fair.
Yeah.
And Theo's doing the right grown-up thing. We spoke about it in the week on. Like he's decided to take himself out of the situation. He definitely doesn't want to be home alone with her, because then it's her word against his.
Yeah.
Into a whole heap of trouble there. She starts claiming things and nobody around to witness it and all the rest of it. You just want to steer clear of that, don't you? Mile away.
Really sensible from him, actually, that he actually had the foresight to think, I could be in trouble here as the adult. He's not that old. He's only 21, 22. He's only just an adult himself, but we were saying how mature he is, isn't he? I mean, it was a year ago that he was riding around on the Polaris, the stolen Polaris that he stole from the surf club. He was burying Ryder alive and getting caught in that trap in the woods. In a year, Theo's really grown up.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's really got that whole, I can see danger. If I hang around with Ava, no one's around. She could put us in a compromising position. She could put something online that incriminates me. As the adult in this situation, I could end up in deep shit for this. I think that's really, really good of him.
Yeah, him being part of the band has aided that development.
Yeah.
Because he's had to grow up. The band are older than him, and he's now hanging around with people who have responsibility. And I think it's really matured him.
And I think his storyline about his dad has helped us see that side of him as well. Like he's had to grow up because of having to go, his dad finally getting justice for what he was doing to him. Him having to admit that it was happening and all of that, and deal with that trauma, I guess, has helped.
Yeah. You really, I've not considered that, but absolutely, 100%. How could it not affect that?
Yeah.
Do you think we're ending up in a position now, because Leah's not happy that Theo decided to go and staying with Kirby, and then Justin accusing Leah of turning every little thing into a crisis was what he said. Do you think we're going to start? Is this going to come between Justin and Leah? Do you think? Like, what's happening here? Is she? Do you know what I mean? Like, will Justin finally wake up to it when it's affecting his own relationship? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because there's this thing that Leah's tried to draft Ruin to tutor her, and she's basically just stuck two fingers up at Rue. And it's caused a bit of an argument because Justin's not happy that Leah's told Rue, and oh god.
I can see his point, can't you? Because obviously he's going to defend Ava. Ava's his daughter. The last time he saw her, she was a little girl. She was a little 12-year-old girl, innocent, He wants to think the best of her. He doesn't want to believe that she's only come back to the Bay to be with Theo. He doesn't want to believe that she's a little bit unhinged, a little bit obsessive. We called her a stalker. I don't know whether that's the right word, but it's the only word we've got, really. He doesn't want to believe that of his little girl. But at the same time, Leah doesn't want her nephew to feel like he's not comfortable in his own home. And I see both sides of the argument here. I can see why they're butting heads and everything. So I feel sorry for Justin. Obviously, Leah, because she can't have that conversation with Justin because he doesn't want to hear it. She's had to confide in Rue, hasn't she, and say, we've got this problem with Ava. I think there's something going on here. I think it's a problem. I think it's not normal. Justin's defending her. He's not seeing it. He's seeing through rose tinted glasses. This is my little girl. It's not a problem. We know who she is. She's not dangerous. But Rose, Leah's told Rue, I think this is a problem. And Rue, she's tried to be helpful and say, well, how about I tutor her? She must be behind on her schoolwork if she's here. She's not attending. Well, we talked about this recently. Why is she not at school?
Yeah.
She's run away from her mum, but is it the school holidays? Is she allowed to, not be in school or college or whatever, however old she is? So Rue's cleverly picked up on this and said, I've got an in here. I can pretend to kind of tutor her, take the burden off you, make sure she's doing her assignments, but at the same time, I can keep an eye on her. So she is spying on her. So I don't blame Justin for saying, I only pay you to tutor her, Rue, not to keep an eye on her, not to babysit her, not to report back every 5 minutes. Because what Rue had done was Theo would come home, I'd need to pack his bag, and announced it. He's got a bit of a cob on with Ava anyway, because he's seen the scrapbook and he's feeling a little bit intimidated by her and everything. And he's going, "Oh, I'm moving out. It's because of you." And Ava's like, "Oh, you don't have to do that. She's really upset about it. Rue's seeing all of this. And the first thing she does is run off and tell Leah and Justin that she's seen it. So I can see Justin's point of view, that it feels like she's a spy.
I can, because Rue attempts to talk to her about Theo.
Yeah.
Think across the line a bit, she was there for a different purpose. So I can also see what Justin's getting at. And I can see why Leah is defending it, because Leah can see through it more, because she's a bit more subjective. She's not.
She can accept it. Justin can't accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fear we're heading for Justin and Leah fighting, which is never enjoyable.
He's going to be on the sofa in 5 nanoseconds, isn't he?
Yeah.
You're sleeping on the sofa tonight, and then she brings out the pillow and just throws it at him. This has happened before, hasn't it? We've seen this hundreds of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I fear, it. Nothing will move on the status, if you like, until she's caught red-handed.
Yeah.
New scrapbook or something. Do you know, like until Justin sees it, evidence, hard evidence, himself with his own 2 eyeballs. I think it's going to take some big reveal like that to uncover her obsession, and that everybody around him isn't being neurotic.
Yes. Yeah. And then how's he going to feel?
Well, this is it. He already felt a bit sort of, oh, she didn't want to see me. She only wanted to see Theo. So, he's carrying that undercurrent of guilt because she threw it in his face that he wasn't there when they were kids. And there's all that backdrop, isn't there, behind why he's being so forgiving, I suppose, and a bit more accepting than others.
And that bled into the Ziggy storyline, didn't it? When Ziggy was talking to him about why they wanted to leave, and she was like, I'm really sorry you had to hear it from Irene. I was going to tell you myself. And he was like, I get it. I've already had that conversation with Dean. He's asking me about how Ava has coped not seeing me growing up. And Ziggy was like, you didn't have a choice. You were witness protection. You didn't have a choice not to see her every day and bring her up. You were sort of saving her life essentially by not seeing Ava. So there's 2 situations are not comparable. But he was like, yeah, but I get it. Dean has got a choice. Dean can go and live with Jai, and if that's what you need to do, I'm okay with you moving. And that was that whole conversation about her leaving her job and moving away from the bay. So this storyline with Ava has actually bled across, which we don't get normally. We do get the block storytelling, don't we? But this has had a knock-on effect with that.
And that's
Ziggy.
Justin needed to hear it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a sort of undercurrent of everything.
Yeah.
With this whole Ava thing, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't happen too often. It was nice to see, actually. Nice to see.
It kind of tied everything together.
Yeah, absolutely. Crossing the T's, dotting the I's before she buggers off out of town. Yeah. Right, now, Bree. So, she's gone cold on Remy. Right, come on, let's try and get through this.
I'm trying to breathe.
She's gone cold on Remy, distant on him, and he's like, what the hell? Like it would be, right?
We went for coffee yesterday. You were chatting to me yesterday, and now you're ignoring me. Like, you would think, what the hell have I done wrong? Even if it was your friend, wouldn't you? Like, if I was talking to you on the pod today and texting you tomorrow and you weren't replying to my text messages, or, you know what I mean? I'd be like, sorry, I've done something wrong.
Of course. And you'd be owed an explanation.
Yeah.
He's not being unreasonable by saying, what have I done? What's going on? Yeah. And in the end, she's doing that thing again where she pushes him out, doesn't what, why, how, whenever, and he's then left to just think it's him, and mull over what he's done, what he said, what he's done, just like any torturing himself with it all, going through it in his mind. In the end, announces he's just going to focus on the band. There's enough of this crap. Right, I'm just going to focus on the band. And then, but that means because he's trying to suppress it and just crack on, he ends up lashing out. You know, there's another band meeting. God, they have more meetings than me. You know, and he lashes out, doesn't he? Because they're all talking about everything else but the band.
Yeah.
Kirby.
The Ava show. Yeah.
That relationship, that closeness with the band members again. Kirby sort of, you know, talks him round, tries to say to her basically, you know, she's still processing what's happened to her. You know, you don't just get on with it. But they were making inroads, and she admits that herself, does old Brie.
Yeah.
When she's breaking down about it all to Rose, you know, we were seeing each other, spending time together, you know, going for coffees, we were getting somewhere. I was seeing a counselor, you know, I was really feeling like I was getting somewhere. What's changed, Sophie? Go on. What's she found out?
Oh, she's pregnant. And we don't know, because you were saying a while ago, actually. So let's go back to this. So when Jacob basically kidnapped her, didn't he? So when Bree and Remy were like shacked up in that dodgy motel outside of town, they were having this affair behind Jacob's back, weren't they?
Yeah.
And then she took the AVO out on Jacob. You know, she finally admitted to Cash, okay, I've got a problem. I'm in an abusive relationship. It was after she accused Dean of the same thing and was wrong. But she said, you know, my perceptions were tainted by my own relationship. I'm in an abusive relationship. I want to report my husband. Took the AVO out on Jacob. Jacob's then not allowed to come near her. But he goes AWOL, doesn't he? He goes AWOL from work, and eventually he comes back to the hotel, finds Remy and Bree together. He breaks Remy's hand, which is why he's in that situation now with his recovery. And he kidnaps his wife, doesn't he? He kidnaps Bree. They go away to this, looks like a camping remote place in the woods. And we kept hearing in flashbacks that she survived this experience, and she killed him essentially. But in flashbacks and talking to people, we're hearing in, you know, these conversations with Rose, I slept with him, you know, and I consented to it. Essentially, she was doing it to keep him on side. She was doing it to preserve her life. She was doing it so that he wouldn't kill her or hit her or whatever. So it was coercive. It wasn't necessarily her consenting and because she loves him and she wants to sleep with him. She was doing it to save her life. But she had this huge guilt, didn't she, where she was saying to Rose, I slept with him. You know, as far as she was concerned, even though she was married to Jacob and dating, you know, Remy behind his back, having an affair with Remy, it was in her head, it was the other way around. She was dating Remy, and when she slept with Jacob, she felt like she was cheating on Remy. She felt guilty for sleeping with him, even though she was doing it to save her own skin.
Yeah,
Because
I could never understand that at the time. Do you remember me saying? Didn't quite get how she felt that way, really.
Yeah.
Because she was doing it to stay alive.
She was.
You know,
She was doing it to
got
keep herself safe. But the fact that we heard that.
Go on.
The fact that we heard that, because you kept saying, why did she keep telling Rose about her sex life? Why did she keep telling Rose I shagged him in a tent? You know, because at the time we were laughing about it. We were like, why does she keep mentioning it? Because it's quite rare on Home and Away. I mean, we do get some risque kind of scenes, don't we? But not many characters go around saying, oh, I shagged so-and-so in a tent, or I shagged so-and-so in a caravan. We see it, but we don't, you know.
Yeah, repeatedly saying it as well. Like, obviously important, make a note of this, you know.
Yeah. She kept saying to Rose, you know, I slept with him, you know, I slept with my husband, and I felt like I was cheating on Remy, and I don't want to tell him. She was saying she didn't want to tell Remy. I don't think she has told him at this point, has she? She hasn't come clean. She's told Rose, but at this point she hasn't told Remy, and that's why she's keeping him at a distance. But now that distance has grown, because not only is she keeping the secret that she slept with Jacob, but now she's pregnant and she doesn't know who the baby belongs to, essentially. It's a who's the daddy storyline, isn't it? Which we've had before.
Yeah. And she doesn't want to tell him.
No.
She doesn't want to, and he goes over, doesn't he, to the apartment and tries to get answers. She snaps at him, throws him out. And I think she's fearing that it's Jacob's, isn't she? Is what I'm reading in the lines.
Yes.
She doesn't she doesn't. It's almost like she's more ashamed of the fact that she slept with Jacob and it could be his, and she doesn't want him to find that out, than
Yes.
she is of the potential of having to make a decision about a pregnancy. Am I getting this right? Am I understanding this right? To me, that's what's across.
I think it's a couple of things, isn't it? Because she's also explained to us that in her mind, it's more likely to be Jacob's, because what she said to Rose was, when I'm with Remy, we were taking precautions. So I'm reading into that there was some birth control involved, condoms or whatever. With Jacob, because it's her husband, a little bit lax on the old contraceptives there. So not as questioned, not as, I think they were planning to have a baby, weren't they? Or at least she'd agreed to that to keep him safe, keep him so that he wouldn't lash out at her. She'd agreed to this baby, hadn't she, in the future? So for her to say at that point, condoms or whatever birth contraceptive they went with, he would have been suspicious at that point, because he'd be like, well, I thought we were trying for a baby, I thought we were moving forward, etc. So we've had that explained to us as part of the storyline. But also, wouldn't you be worried as Bree, potentially this is Jacob's child? And I'm not saying, kids are born evil or anything like that, but Jacob obviously has a lot of issues, and you would worry about bringing a child into the world that potentially could end up like Jacob, wouldn't you? I'd be thinking that. However irrational that feels would be.
I wasn't thinking about it, but now I am.
It's irrational because, I don't think people are born that way. I think there's a lot of things that, events and whatever, and circumstances, and how they grow up and that kind of thing molds a person. I don't think a baby is born to be an abuser or a psychopath or whatever, but you would fear that, wouldn't you? Like, this baby could turn out to be a mini Jacob. I'd be worried about that.
Yeah, I'd not even considered that was going through her mind at this stage, I'll be honest. I was just thinking, oh God, but you're right. Oh, shit. It's where we're going, isn't it? Yeah. It's
a very scary person, and the offspring of that person, I would be worried. Or what if they're exactly the same?
At the very least, it's a constant reminder of that person, actually.
Yes, because if he looks like him, if you look at it, maybe it's the son, and he looks the spit image of Jacob. Every time you looked at him, you would think of this man that bashed you over the head and was digging your grave. The one that beat you, and then 5 minutes later told you he loved you, and that's why he did it, because he got jealous.
Oh God,
I don't know whether I would cope with that.
Well, she says to Rose, the one person she wants to speak to about it, she can't, because she can't speak to Remy.
But why? Why can't you?
I don't understand it. I think Remy would be really good about it. I really do. As does Rose. She even says that, doesn't she? Try it.
Even if he's not good about it, I mean, that would tell you enough about your relationship. Do you know what I mean? I think if
tell you what you, wasn't it? Yeah, nothing venture.
If there's any future for them, she has to talk to him about it, regardless of how he reacts to it, because however he reacts to it will determine the relationship going forwards. I think.
Yeah, I suspect she will speak to him about it, to be honest with you.
She's going to have to,
in the coming episodes, yeah. I mean, we've seen her, treat him like absolute dirt. He's the new Tane, basically. All that. Yeah. Like, me and you, no contact, no coffees, no walks. I choose nothing, was the word.
I'd be heartbroken.
Well, he is, isn't
he? Yeah.
Because Remy's been here in the not too distant past.
Yeah.
When he's been shut out by her, and he's had to try and, he's not coped well getting on with it, has he? Without her, she consumes everything, and she's doing it again when he thought he was getting somewhere with her. Does he choose the right thing to do? Then he goes to the bar, doesn't he, and gets on the bourbon.
I don't think it's the right thing to do, but I totally
understand why. Yeah,
I relate to that. That's me in a nutshell. I've had a bad day today. I've had a bad week this week, and I'm on the wine in the can, so I cannot judge Remy for having a bourbon in the bar.
You can't. What can you judge him for? What he does with that young girl, though?
Well, yes and no. I mean, she's very forward, isn't she? He's not looking around the room. He's not looking for a potential hookup or anything like that. We see a couple of shots where this table behind him of ladies, I think it is, they're all looking over at the bar at Xander and Remy, aren't they? And obviously, Remy looks down. Xander doesn't. Xander looks pretty chipper, so you wouldn't go for him. Remy looks vulnerable. Remy looks on his uppers, doesn't he? Let's be honest. And she
Yeah.
comes over and she's like, "Hi, I think you need cheering up. I think you should join us." You know, she's very forward, isn't she? And
Yeah.
to someone like Remy, I mean, Remy, Bree has told him she hasn't minced her words. We're over. Get over it. This is it. They've
Mm.
broken up. It's not even a will they, won't they in his mind right now. She's told him because I think she says something like, "I want all or nothing," and he says, I want all," and she goes, "I want nothing."
I know. It
It's
was
over.
brutal. That was brutal, that
It
scene.
was.
It
I
really was.
don't think there was any reading between the lines there. I don't think it was give me space. You know, a couple of weeks ago it was give me space, give me time. This wasn't give me space, give me time. This was I don't want you. We are over, isn't
Mhm,
it?
mhm.
So for all intents
Oh,
and purposes,
the killer.
Remy is single.
Yeah, absolutely. And he takes her home. Nothing actually happens,
No.
actually. He thinks better of it. But of course, the
She's
next,
trying to eat him alive, isn't she? She's
yeah,
all over him and he's like, "Oh, I can't do this." Yeah,
really
this is
bizarre.
too much.
What do you
He-
expect me to do? Get a taxi to Mangrove River on my own? Really bizarre
Do you
stuff.
know what? I was thinking if this was flipped, if this was the other way around, if Remy, if Remy had come on really strong with this girl in the bar and been kissing her and come back to my place and whatever, and he'd gone back to her place, and then he carried on kissing her at her place, and then she turned round and said, "Actually, I'm not into this. I don't want this. I'm not, I'm not ready. I don't give consent for whatever's going to happen next." And he went, "Oh well, what do you expect me to do? Go home? You've led me on. You've brought me back to your house." I was thinking, if the script was flipped here, everyone would be up in arms about this, about him being
Yeah,
shitty, essentially, about this girl changing her mind at the last minute, which everyone is entitled to do. Inviting someone back to their house, not consent, is it? Kissing someone, not consent.
hmm
So
yeah, you're right. Actually, if it was she was on the other foot,
yeah,
that would have been a bit. That would have been a big issue.
it
Actually.
would. Like if he'd been really shitty with her, like, "Oh, you've turned, basically you've turned me on and then told me to bog off," is basically what she was saying.
Mm,
If it was him saying that to her, everyone would be in uproar about it,
that's
wouldn't
true.
they?
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Because she'd be saying, "Oh, your cocktease" or whatever. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah,
if the
yeah, yeah,
tables were
yeah,
turned, people would be saying that's horrendous.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the fact that it's a girl saying, "You brought me back to your place and now you've said you don't want to sleep with me. I can't go back to my house now because I can't get a taxi from here or public transport or whatever. It's far too far away from Mangrove River." She's allowed to have a go at him like that and nobody bats an eyelid. But if Remy was saying that, "Oh, you big cock tease, you got me back here under false pretenses and now you're not going to sleep with me." Imagine if that was,
Yeah, we'd
you
all
know,
smarmy Remy's back.
yeah, exactly. I felt a bit for him here because I thought, no, they would have absolutely crucified him if he'd done that to her.
And more importantly, he was trying to do the right thing here. You know,
Yes.
he was trying not to lead her on.
Yes.
Obviously, we see the next morning, he's just sort of seeing her out, and Bree's coming over to have this
Mm,
conversation that she should have had without being any absolute awful Egypt to him.
yeah.
And she's put two and two together, seeing them on the porch, hasn't she?
Yeah.
With him. And I'm just thinking, this is going to go on and on and on. And I'm quickly losing patience with Bree as a result.
I am. Yeah. I'm finding it hard to obviously I feel for her from the point of view that she's pregnant, she's scared, she thinks it's Jacob's, she's worried that it's a mini Jacob, she's worried that Remy won't accept a child that's not his. I get all of that and I feel bad for her for that. And I feel awful that she's in that situation. But communicate. If her and Remy are worth anything, communicate, tell him. Let him be part of the solution for the problem. Let him help you, support you. If he doesn't, if he does wig out and say, oh God, I'm not here for this, you're on your own, then she's got her answer, isn't she? He's not worth chasing. He's not worth, holding a candle for.
Thank you for listening. We will be back with more episode discussion from Summer Bay soon. Until then, join the discussion online at Coastal News Pod.